So let's begin and understand what are the various physical features and the intricacies involved in this mapping series. We should know the physical features, obviously important places, obviously important mountain peaks and ranges. Now you will say that, so do we need to remember all the countries, all the capitals and all? What has been asked and what is the trend of UPSC? Based on that, we have covered a lot of content. Obviously, there is Ural mountain that is separating, which we will cover in Asia. But overall, if you realize why it is treated separately, it is because of the cultural and the historical reasons. This is what, if you have done this, you will be confident in attempting the mapping with respect to the question that are asked in your preliminary examination first of all. So make sure that you draw it. Do not waste the effort that I have put in so that you can benefit out of it. Hello aspirants, welcome to PW Only IS. I am here Harpreet Singh with another lecture on the world mapping series. We have already done 5 continents. This is the 6th continent we are going to do. That is Europe. So let's begin and understand what are the various physical features and the intricacies involved in this mapping series. Now please understand one thing very clearly. While I am teaching you, please have the Europe map with you, or you can draw the Europe map in prior as I'm going to show you, and then please mark the features. Please remember one thing, simply downloading the notes and just viewing it will be an incomplete exercise. Why? Because once you draw with me, you are learning at that particular point of time and you will remember that for a very long time. So please make sure while you are watching this lecture, make an effort to draw the map. Pause the video wherever you want to and then mark the features, and I'm telling you, I'm guaranteeing you, you will always remember those features. So let's begin with today's lecture. As we've already said, this is a Telegram account where you can find a lot of information on geography, anthropology optional, society, social justice, and civil services preparation in general. This is my Telegram account. You can scan, or you can basically write this particular name, Harpreet underscore PW UPSC wala, and you will be directed to this particular Telegram account. So let's begin. Now, as we all know that this is a particular world map which I have been using, which was drawn by hand by me. Now, if you see this world map, completely, now if you want to locate where Europe as a continent is, let's see. This is the region. Something that is marked in green, this is the Europe continent. We've already seen North America, South America, Europe. This is the Europe we are studying now. We have seen Africa, we have seen Antarctica, we have seen Australia, and we are obviously remaining with Asia, which we're going to cover. This is a European continent, which you should be knowing the location basically. Now, let's see Europe. Now, out of this particular map, let us extract the European part. This is a map of Europe, and we should know, we should know the physical features, obviously important places, obviously important mountain peaks and ranges. Now you will say that, so do we need to remember all the countries, all the capitals and all? Please remember, you're preparing for UPSC. So you need to understand the trend of what UPSC asks. You should be very well aware of that. That is most important. Otherwise, otherwise someone can do PhD on European studies also. There is no end. But will that help that particular person to qualify civil services? Probably not. So that is why what is important, what has been asked, and what is the trend of UPSC. Based on that, we have covered a lot of content based on the mountain ranges, the rivers, the water bodies, climatic regions and all. So please be careful. In the process of just knowing more, do not start doing PhD on things, right? So let's begin. Europe. Now, this is a map which I have already put on the side. If I see Europe, let us have a brief description about it. You know that Europe is the second smallest continent. You know the smallest continent is Australia, which we have already done in the previous lectures. And this is being second smallest, but important thing is it is the third most populous also. So large number of countries are here, very densely populated also, many of them, and it is obviously the third populous. So you should remember, though it is the second smallest, it's the third populous continent. Considered the part of the Eurasian landmass, but treated as a separate continent. See, it is considered as a part of this complete one landmass, right? Obviously, there is Ural mountain that is separating, which we will cover in Asia. But overall, if you realize why it is treated separately, it is because of the cultural and the historical reasons. Now, this is something that you should be very well aware of, right? Now, surrounded by water on all the 3 sides. Now, if you see the map, you will realize this, that it is Atlantic Ocean on the western side, you have the Arctic Ocean on the northern side, and Mediterranean Sea on the southern side, which we will be seeing over here also. See over here. this particular region, this is what? Mediterranean Sea. If you go towards the western side, what is this? Atlantic. What is in the north? Arctic Sea. So it is surrounded by water on all three sides. Obviously, on the right side, on the eastern side, you have Russia. Let's begin. Physical divisions of Europe. Now, what generally happens is most of the students, while studying Europe, they try to study the physical features separately, and along with it, the minerals or a little bit about the social human aspects very separately. And that is why it creates a lot of problem also. So what I've done is, within these physical features, I have basically put in the social and the economic aspects also, so you can very well understand the relationship, why some things are there and what are the reasons. Because geography of a region definitely influences the social, cultural, and the economical aspects, right? So there are 4 physical divisions or broad divisions in which we can divide Europe. First, the Western Highlands. Second, the North European Plains and or also known as the Great European Plains. Third, the Central Uplands. And fourth, the Northern Highlands. Now you will be asking, sir, you have written them. Can you show us on the map also? Obviously, I will. See here. This is a map. Now what your duty is, you should pause the video. You should have the map of Europe, or you can draw the map of Europe, which I have drawn earlier also, and mark it. Now what is the thing? This particular region is known as the Western Highlands. What? The Western Highlands. This particular region is known as the Central Uplands. This particular region is known as the North European Plains. And you have the Scandinavian countries and obviously United Kingdom and Iceland also. This basically region forms the Northern Highlands, right? So these are the 4 physical divisions in which I can divide Europe. And based on them, we will be studying each division in brief, whatever is required for civil services, right? So quickly note this down, take a screenshot if you want, or draw the map as mentioned on the board. Now, why I have drawn by hand, please remember, in all the mapping series, in all the physical geography of India and physical geography of the world series, which is going on right now, you would have realized that every single alphabet, every single diagram, every single map has been drawn by hand. Now, there's a reason behind it. I have already mentioned you. Very often, teachers might use diagrams from Google and all, but then what students feel is that if the teacher is using a Google map, or let us say something that is pre-drawn, if the teacher is not drawing, how will the student draw? So in order to boost your confidence, in order to increase your understanding, I'm using these particular maps which are hand-drawn. It takes a lot of time to make them, a lot of time to draw them. I would appreciate that if you all, yourself also in your copies, in your registers, draw that. And I'm guaranteeing you one thing, very often you face the issue, na sir, we have done the mapping, we have done this, we don't remember it. Because you probably might have just listened to the lecture or downloaded the notes and just kept the notes in your phones or your laptops and imagining that someday that you will read it. If you sit properly using this lecture, you draw it. If this lecture is, let us say, of 40 minutes, it might take you 2 hours to draw it, 3 hours to draw it, 4 hours to draw it. But once you have done it, it is for infinite time that you have your notes with you. You do not have to look anywhere else. So make sure that you draw it. Do not waste the effort that I have put in so that you can benefit out of it. Clear? Okay. Starting with these 4 divisions, let us understand this. Western Highlands. Now let us understand what are the Western Highlands. You very well know that these regions, this complete region, this is what? The Western Highlands. Right? Now, let us study briefly about it. When I've mentioned certain mountain peaks over here, please remember, while we're doing the mountain ranges, I will be showing you the positions also. So don't need to worry about that. Whatever features are mentioned here are going to be mentioned in the maps that will follow. Formed during the Alpine orogeny, that means all these mountain ranges which I have mentioned here, which are present in these regions, are basically young fold mountains. Like you would have seen, the Himalayas also young fold mountains. Yes, the Rockies also. Similarly, these are also young fold mountains. Now, terrain is rugged, high altitude and tectonically folded. So, by default, young fold, that means when you talk about the crustal surface, it is because of the pressure that has been exerted. There have been a lot of folds that have formed. We have already done the physical geography series. As I had shown you, let's see this again. Let's see, imagine there is, let us say this crustal surface, right? if there is pressure exerted from, let us say, both sides, or let us say one side also. Let us say there's a pressure exerted from one side. This crustal surface will fold as this paper is folding, or let us say force is exerted from both sides also. In that case also you will realize there will be folding. So this fold can be in this shape, this shape, this shape, or straight, whatever be the case, depending upon the force that is exerted. These fold type mountains are formed. As you see this paper, so is the case with these mountains also. Because see, we are already doing, we've already done the tectonic movements in the physical geography series. So please, I would request you to see them also, right? So that is why what happens, these tectonically folded structures are formed. Now terrain, because certain folds are present, certain landscape is in such a form that it leads to a rugged format. Obviously, because something is folded, automatically the nearby regions are also impacted. So relatively the altitude over here is relatively higher, right? Now, what are the major mountain ranges that are present here? Because it is tectonically active region also. Alps, right? The Alps are present here. We'll be showing that. France and Switzerland and Italy region. Pyrenees over here, if you realize this particular region. Carpathians in this particular region, where Central and Eastern European region. Apennines, it is present in this region in Italy. Balkan Mountains in Bulgaria. Sierra Nevada in Spain in this position. Now you will be saying, you've just mentioned that this position. Remember this. Let me take you, if you want to see here. Pyrenees is present here. Alps is present here. Apennines is present here. Carpathian is present here. Sierra Nevada is present here. So you have the markings. So don't need to worry, sir, where are the markings? Everything is present. Don't need to worry. Clear? Let's come back again. So these mountain ranges which I have mentioned, please remember, repeatedly UPSC has asked them in the match the following sections, that they can simply ask you, which among the following are the Youngfold mountains? So you know that I have mentioned here Youngfold mountains, so all of them are Youngfold. They might put Aravalli also here. Then you also know Aravalli is not Youngfold, right? It is a very old mountain range, right? Himalayas are Youngfold. These are Youngfold. So you should remember these things. Every single word that is mentioned on the slide is important for you. Whether it is alpine orogeny, whether it is Youngfold mountain, whether it is turret, tectonically folded, tectonically active regions, everything is important. So make sure that you note down everything, right? So you have the Alps, you have the Pyrenees, you have the Carpathians, then you have the Apennines, then you have the Balkans, and then you have Sierra Nevada, right? Now, these are the mountain ranges which are basically, their presence basically is identified in this Western Highland region. Now, please remember, if I talk from the perspective of socio-economic dimension, let us see certain points. Settlement are concentrated in villages due to the harsh terrain and climate. Now, because see, if I talk about Himalayas also, you realize Himalayan region is not densely populated, because again the rugged nature, the altitude is high, but there are certain regions which there can be concentration, right? Similarly over here, the settlement are concentrated in certain village regions. High human development due to tourism, economy and services. Now if you realize, I had mentioned over here Switzerland, France and all. Just imagine you are present in Switzerland, you will realize a lot of mountain ranges are present, right? But important thing is that the population density is not very high overall, and the populations are also not very high. The important thing is that human development indices of these countries are very high, and their economies are also very high. One of the reasons is the tourism economy. Now, something where we as Indians need to work on, like for example, if you talk about Uttarakhand, in Uttarakhand there is a region known as Oli. Now, Oli is as beautiful as Switzerland, but we have not been able to tap its economic potential, what the Switzerland has done. Similarly, Switzerland, large number of tourists basically go there. Good set of hotels representing their culture and all are present. Facilities are present. Government has played a very important role in the development of the region. That is why their economies are relatively very high. Clear? So, and that is why tourism, economy, services, if you see Swiss watches, Swiss chocolates, obviously we know the Swiss bank also, but for that matter, these things are one of the most important dimensions which you read about Switzerland, and for that matter, other countries like France and all also. You realize France is known for as a cultural hub, as a tourism hub, as a fashion hub. Similarly, other regions also. So that is why the economy is relatively very high, dependent mainly on, or majorly only obviously on the tourism and the service sector also. Obviously, there are minerals in certain regions, but tourism plays a very important role. Alpine meadows support cattle grazing and pastoral. So pastoral economy obviously is one of the major dimension with respect to the economic activities, right? Herding and all. Okay, let's move to the North European plains. Now please see, if I'm talking about North European plains, what am I talking about? This particular region, right? This is basically what? North European plains, right? As I'd already shown you over here also, right? North European plains. Okay. Now it is the largest lowland region of Europe. Lowland because if you see the average altitude, it is very low in comparison to the nearby regions which are relatively mountainous, which have plateaus, which have mountain ranges. So altitude increases. But this is a region where it is a lowland. That means the altitude is relatively low. And that is why this is an important region. Now it extends from, if it extends from France, if you see this region, France, till this region, till you go to the Baltic states, right? So it extends from France to Belgium, to Netherlands, to Germany, to Poland, to Baltic Sea. So it is a complete extent from France till the Baltic states, right? So complete region over here, very large extent, right? Okay, formed by the glacial and alluvial deposits. Now you know that very well that lot of if you would have seen the physical geography series which is right now going on in this particular channel, you would have seen the topic of landforms and all, where I had mentioned about the glacial landforms, right? In that case, I had mentioned about the deposits that are basically made by the glaciers. Similarly, there are a lot of rivers also that are there. So they're also depositing the alluvial soil. So you realize this plain is basically made up of deposition by the glacial as well as the alluvial soil deposits that are present, right? Now the major rivers, there are a lot of major rivers that are flowing here, which we'll be seeing in the section of the rivers, which I'm going to show you. Rivers like Seine, Rhine, Elbe, Oder, Vistula, Volga. These are very important rivers that are flowing here, right? Very important rivers. Please make a note of it. Clear? You generally know, whenever we talk about the plain regions, there is a close association with the rivers also, because there is deposition that is taking place. So that is why it becomes very, very integral and important. Okay, let's move ahead. Most densely populated region. Now, think about it. Like, for example, if in the examination there's a question that comes that plains are generally associated with high population density, right? If you see, you can take the example of northern plains also of India. What do you see? What was the reason behind it? First, you will see the similar reasons over here also. If you see Indian plains also, and here also, you will see flatness, lowland nature. So that means people can settle easily. If you are staying in a mountain, obviously there is a lot of hindrances because their altitude is high over there. Over here altitude is low, so people can settle. There is level nature of the ground, so it is easier to again establish stuff also and settle down there also. Large density of population, large population can settle. Similarly here also. Similarly, you will realize that there is resource in the form of rivers that are present because water is very integral. Then again you will say because water is present, you will be able to have agriculture practices being there. Similarly in the Indian plains also, similarly here also. So what happens over here is these are the reasons which basically provide people to settle down in the plain regions. Clear? And with respect to the other upland regions and all, you know that very well that you see as you go higher in the altitude, you will realize that temperature further keeps on decreasing. And the level of harshness that a person or a population faces increases. So over here it is lowland, so relatively comfortable life, relatively better life with respect to the harshness of the climate, which is less. That is why people settle down here. That is why most densely populated region is present over here. And this is why, please remember, this is also a region. This is also a region which is known as the industrial belt, where during the time of the mining activities and all have taken place at a great extent. So see here, strong working class history due to the industrial revolution, right? Agriculture, wheat, barley, sugar beet and dairy farming have played a very important role. And industrial belt, please understand, this region, like the region of Germany, Poland, France, Belgium, right, etc. These regions are known for their industrial growth, right? There are a lot of deposits also, nearby deposits. You will realize that obviously you get from the upland region also, nearby upland region, but these are the regions where you find a lot of industrial uh, development that took place. So these are the core regions where industrial revolution also was impacted. Obviously, it started in the England region and spread to these regions also. But these are very impactful regions with respect to the development of industries, right? So these are very, very important regions. Now let's see, come to the next division, central upland. If you see over here, you have this particular region. This is what? Central upland. The moment I say upland, that means there is a relatively higher altitude, right, of the region. Now see here, older and eroded compared to the Western Highlands. The Western Highlands are relatively younger. These are the older structures or the landforms that are present here. Now, not very high because again, if you see the plateaus, they're generally eroded. So relatively they're higher. Obviously, they're higher than the northern plains, but not as high as the Western Highlands, which we had discussed. So not as high, mostly plateaus and low mountains, right? Now, what are the major uplands? These are the major uplands that are present. You should be knowing. Massif Central, it is present in France. Vosges, it is present in France. Black Forest in Germany. Please remember, do not get confused with the fact when Black Forest is mentioned, many people assume that it is a forest only. It is again an upland region. Next, Bohemian Massif, Czech Republic. So these again are the 4 upland region that you should keep in mind. Along with the countries. Why? Because this simple question can come in your examination also, because I have taken it from all the NCRTs, the oldest of the NCRTs also, which were even before 1980s, and the relatively newer ones also. So that is why please make sure that you note all of them, because UPSC can pick up questions from any of them, and these questions are very, very important and integral also. So Massif Central, France, Vosges, France, Black Forest, Germany, Bohemian Massif, Czech Republic. Clear? Okay, let's move ahead. Now, these are moderately populated with old industrial towns and with cultural identities. And these have also been impacted. Again, these are plateaus, so you will realize one thing, because they are plateaus, so there will be a lot of mineral resources that are present. So this also had in the initial phases of the industrial evolution, this region, because it was the industries are set up close to these regions. Why? Because they had the raw material. Now, the raw material being present, the industrial towns also developed here, industrial activities also developed here. Obviously, they also spread to the other regions also as the population increased. So there was a stretch to the northern plain region also later on, because there was a lot of population over here. So there are different factors that were working here. But in the central upland region, you realize, because of the presence of the raw material, a lot of initial industrial towns did develop here, right? So growing industrial towns with cultural identity. Now they were growing ecotourism due to the forest and scenic landscape. Now please understand, again, if you see regions like Germany now and other nearby countries, you will realize they have been very categorically emphasizing on sustainable development. If you realize that with respect to Germany also, a very good emphasis has been laid on electric cars and all, right? They're not even using the normal fuel cars. They're almost making it, let us say, they've given a deadline also. Now they're almost focusing on the electric car. So that means there is a concept of ecotourism, sustainable development, let us say forest safaris concept going on. All these things are very categorically being emphasized in Germany and the nearby countries in the Europe. That is why from the time of the industrial revolution and the impact or the negative impact the countries had faced to now, ecotourism and all is being generally focused, right? Economic activities again include, to a certain extent, mining of coal and iron, forestry, timber, and paper industries are also found here, right? So these things, again, varying upon the nature of the countries and its policies, you realize these are the major economic activities also that are taking place. Clear? Okay. Last come the Northern Highlands. Now see here. This is a region. The Scandinavian countries. This is again the United Kingdom region, the Iceland. These are what? Northern Highlands. What does it include? You will see it includes the Scandinavian mountains, again the regions of Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. If you see, it is dominated by the glacial landforms. You've already seen in the geography series which is going on, what in the landforms chapter, what are the glacial landforms? We've already discussed how these all are formed, what is the mechanism of their formation with the diagrams I've drawn, right? So fjords, U-shaped valleys, lakes, and moraines. Moraines are again the deposits by the glaciers, because these are regions which have continuously been impacted by the glacier because it is in a very cold region, right? So that is why. Iceland lies on the mid-Atlantic ridge, having volcanic and geothermal features also that are present. Now, coast of Norway, if you see, the coast of Norway remains ice-free in winters due to North Atlantic drift. This is a question that has been asked in UPSC. If you see just the previous lecture of climatology, which I had basically just been posted 2 days back, you will realize that in that particular case, I had mentioned the isothermal map of the world with respect to January, in which I had shown you that in the Atlantic Ocean, there is a general shift towards the north in the Atlantic Ocean of the isotherms. Isotherms are what? The line which is joining all places having equal temperature, right? I had mentioned there, because of the Gulf Stream, the warm current, the Gulf Stream, the North Atlantic drift, it basically takes warm water from the equator towards the upper latitudes in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, because of the warm water that is coming, the coastal regions of Norway are impacted by the warm water. That is why the coastal regions of Norway are basically ice-free. And that is why what happens, it supports port activities in spite of the fact that region is cold. That is why which has helped in the economic development of the region also, right? Clear? So this is the point that you should remember. Next, please understand, low population density. See, the population density is low because the climate is very harsh. But there is a very high standard of level of development because of the economic activities, oil reserves, gas reserves have been found, and the density of population is less. So government can basically go provide good social security network, total good education system, and all these things are basically provided by the government also. The government plays a very important role in these regions, and people are generally, that is why, happy also in these regions. That is why they have a very high rank in the happiness indexes, right? So low density of population, low population density, high standard of living. It is one of the world's richest fishing ground. Again, very rich fish economy and rich oil and natural gases. So these regions have all these things. So by default, it is very, very useful for their growth and development, right? So these are the northern islands. Now let us, we have done with the physical division. Let us go on to like the micro level things like mountain ranges, peaks and all. Let us have a brief view of that. Okay, let's see. Have a map with you. Please remember this. Let's start from the upper side over here. These are the Scandinavian mountains which are present in again Norway, Sweden and Finland, right? If you come down over here, you will see the Spain. In Spain, you have Cantabrian Mounts present over here. If you just come over here at the boundary of France and Spain, you have the Pyrenees. This is at the boundary. That means it is present both in France and Spain. So Pyrenees in France and Spain. If you come south over here in the Spain region, you have the Sierra Nevada. It is present in Spain. Now, if you come towards the eastern side, you have the Alps mountains, very important with respect to tourism activities also. And it is not something that is present in one country. There are a lot of countries that share the remnants of this particular mountain range. France, Italy, Austria, Germany, Slovenia, and Switzerland, they basically share the Alps, right? Now, if you come here, if you come towards Italy, you will see here Apennines, right? This is Italy. Again, the complete stretch is covered over here. Then if you come to further east, you will see Dinaric Alps. It is again Bosnia and Herzegovina basically have this particular mountain range. If you further come towards the eastern side, you see over here Pindus is present again. Pindus is present over here again, right? Just a minute. Greece region also. Give me a minute. Greece. Okay. Now comes over here, this particular mountain range in the south, in the northern part is the Carpathians. Carpathians is basically in Ukraine, Romania, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic and Serbia. Further south over here is the Balkan Mountains. Balkan Mountains has Bulgaria and Serbia. Towards the further east rise the Caucasus Mountains, which is basically shared by Russia, Georgia and Azerbaijan. Now these are the important mountain ranges that you should all be aware of. Quickly note it down because questions are very often asked on these. I'm just coming on the side. You can take a screenshot or whether you want to note it down, it is up to you. But I would advise that while practicing, pause the video and note it down. Clear? Okay, let's move ahead. Now comes the important peaks, mountain peaks. See, if I start writing all the peaks, then there will be hundreds and hundreds of peaks, and that is actually not possible also for you to remember. What is important in that case when we talk about the peaks? The ones which are important, the ones which have been asked, and ones you should know, right? So based on that, we have certain peaks over here. See, if you see over here, there is a Mount Enito. It is present on the Pyrenees range. If you come over here in the Alps, you have the Matterhorn in the Alps. This question has been repeatedly asked. Where are these mountain peaks present in which range? So Matterhorn in Alps and Mount Blanc again in Alps. If you come further south over here in Sicily, you have Mount Etna, again known for its eruptions and all, historically also. Then you have Tatra. Tatra, Carpathian Mountains. Just let me make you remember that. If you remember, the Tatra word is also associated in India. How? Check this. The thing is that the trucks that were imported by India from the European regions, those trucks are called as Tatra trucks in the military, right? And they are left-hand driven, not right-hand driven as the rules of India that permit. Just check that out also. So that Tatra word is basically derived from the mountain peak. Okay. Then comes Mount Olympus. It is present in Greece. Then you have Mount Erebus. It is present in Caucasus Mountains. It is the highest peak in Europe. So it is the highest peak in Europe. These are the important peaks that you should be aware of. Clear? Enito, Mount Blanc, Matterhorn, Etna, Tatra, Olympus, and Mount Erebus. If you know these are more than sufficient for the European continent. Okay, let's move ahead. Rivers. Now see here, a lot of rivers are present here. Now see, let us start from this region only. Let's start from here. Volga. Now Volga, if you realize, this is the longest river. It basically empties itself in the Caspian Sea. It is the longest river into the Caspian Sea. Then you have other rivers like the Don River into the Black Sea, Dnieper River, again Black Sea, Danube, again the Black Sea. Danube is the second longest river in Europe. Clear? If you move further here, there is a Po River emptying itself into the Adriatic Sea. Then you have the Rhone River over here, right? If you come to the region of Spain, you have a very important river, that is Tagus. Further north, you have Loire, right? Then further north, you have Seine. These are the rivers which I had mentioned in the northern plains, right? Remember, Seine. Then you have the important river, that is Rhine. That is what? Rhine. Then you have important river Elbe. Then further right, you have Oder, and then you have Vistula. Now please remember, there is a possibility that they can ask you the order also. Clear? You very well know that Thames is again a very important river, again flowing through England, and then on the over here you have the Shannon River. Clear? Ireland, you have Shannon. So these are the possible rivers that you should know. The questions beyond this will not be asked because there is a limit with respect to UPSC also with respect to the world mapping. Why? Because see, in India, when we do the mapping, you realize that every single detail from which it is passing and all it is important. But here, there is a limit to which UPSC also goes. Otherwise, if they want to create a question which should not be attempted by everyone, that is a different case. But this is the level of things that you should be aware of. If you know this, more than sufficient. Okay? Okay, let's move ahead. Just, I'm pausing you can pause the video and note it down or draw it as you wish. Let's move ahead. Water bodies. Now, nearby water bodies you should be a little bit aware of. See over here. This is basically the Gulf of Finland. This is basically the Gulf of Finland. Further north, you have the Gulf of Bothnia. This region is known as the Baltic Sea. This region is known as the North Sea. Further between Ireland and the other remaining part over here, you will have the Irish Sea. Further over here, you have the Celtic Sea. Between the United Kingdom region and the other mainland European region, you have this region which is known as the English Channel. This region over here is known as the Bay of Biscay. Again, the entry of the Mediterranean Sea, you have the Strait of Gibraltar. This particular region is known as the Mediterranean Sea. This particular is the Mediterranean Sea. Over here, this is known as the Gulf of Venice. This region is known as the Adriatic Sea. This is known as the Aegean Sea, Aegean. This particular region is known as the Black Sea. This small part is known as the Sea of Izon. Sea of Izon. So these are the water bodies that you should be aware of. Pause the video and note it down quickly. Okay, let's move ahead. Peninsular region. Now these are peninsular regions which you should be a little bit aware of, important ones. This is the Scandinavian Peninsula. Over here you have the Iberian Peninsula. Now Iberian Peninsula is obviously associated with Spain and parts of France also, but majorly Spain. Then you come over here, you have the Italian Peninsula. Then you come here in the Greece regions, you have the Balkan Peninsula, and over here Crimean Peninsula. Clear? These are the important peninsular regions that you should be aware of. Quickly note it down. Okay, let's move ahead. Climatic regions. Now if you see, while we are going to do the climate in the climatology chapter, the parallel series that is going on, over there we are going to discuss the various climates also. That is why I have told you to do the series in parallel. Over here I have mentioned the broad categorization, standard categorization. See over here, this red region which is adjoining the Mediterranean has a Mediterranean type of climate, right? This red region. If you move little just further, this is the again overlapping with the central upland region. So it has a highland or an alpine type of a climate. Further region, this region again is influenced by the neighboring Atlantic Sea and the small seas that are present. So this has a maritime climate, this present in pink color, along with the United Kingdom region. Further, if you come towards the region of the eastern side, this is the savanna, the grassland region, again neighboring with Russia. Further, this region again at the higher latitudes is a very cold region. So this is generally cold or subarctic region. Further south, if you see the Iceland and this particular region, the Scandinavian, basically refers the Arctic region. That means Arctic climate. That means it is very, very cold, very cold. So there is very heavy snowfall permanently covered over here also. So these regions are known as what? The Arctic. So this is the climatic categorization which you should be aware of. Note it down quickly. Okay, done. So this was the European mapping that you should be all aware of. Something very important. Why? Because see, this is what, if you have done this, you will be confident in attempting the mapping with respect to the question that are asked in your preliminary examination, first of all. Second thing, questions in the mains examination are also asked where you need to write certain evidences or mention certain case studies or as examples. Over there, these physical divisions, the concept that I've explained you, all these things become very, 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 very important. So do not neglect them. Make sure that you do it properly and make sure that you revise it repeatedly and you will be doing very well. Take care, and we'll be coming with the last lecture with respect to the mapping, that is Asia. So please remember that, do them well, and you will be mastering the mapping series. Clear? Take care and Jai Hind.